All right. Wow. What a great person to fumble through because you're just like, it's all good. I'm like, oh my gosh. Okay. So the coolest thing is now we've set like by saying yes and figuring it out, we're one step closer. Like now we're live streaming all over the place. Other than Michelle's channels, because that's a whole nother thing. But we can share, we can comment. So if you saw the other one, don't worry, here we are. What's up? My name is Kristen Gutierrez, and I'm a sales and marketing ninja. Now I know what Michelle's going to say. But I teach entrepreneurs, small businesses, and massive corporations how to sell more at a higher profit while implementing, write this down, the right systems. And so that's super fun. I've been doing this basically my whole life, but on my own for about 3 years now. And I'm joined today by my dear friend and client, Michele Young, who she's so fascinating. So, Michelle, take us back and tell us a little bit about your all your business and initiatives, and then we'll dive in.
Awesome. Thank you, Kristen. I, especially after Kristen's intro, also like to point out that I am, in fact, an actual ninja. Um, I train actively in martial arts as well as own a physical martial arts school and get to teach and train people there. So it's super fun. That is my brick and mortar business, but the reason that I guess I work with Kristen for some of that too, but the reason that I work with Kristen and we know each other and we're in this circle is because I coach and consult individuals, organizations, and businesses on how to get from where they are to where they say they want to go. So I bridge the
Mm.
gap between those two spaces for them through a system that I only realized was a system when I was told that that's what it was at some point. And I was like, I debated it for a while and then I finally understood and accepted when I realized that I had been using a system all along. And so now it has names that go with it and a structure and an order. And because of that, I can deliver results to people quickly, easily, and I can get them from where they say they are, from where they are to where they say they want to go.
Yes. Yes. I love it. I love it. So we were talking about the system itself, right? And the idea that everything is a system, and I hadn't realized it either. So in corporate, at the about 3 years before losing my job, I created with my CEO, we co-created this outcomes-based framework, and it was a system to walk clients down a path in the translation industry in which I had spent 20 years. And this massively differentiated me from all the hundreds of other salespeople because I could prove even our sales process had a system. And then when I became an accidental entrepreneur, I was like selling myself. And like that's okay too. But at the end of the day, then I realized I needed a mentor to tell me you're too close to your system. You need to put yourself in a black hole for a day, a week, whatever it is, and figure out what are the steps you take people on when you say yes and figure it out, for example, right? Whatever that is, whatever your system is. So tell us about your system.
Cool. So yeah, I did that. I took a step back and I was like, everybody's saying it's a system. It must be a system. Like, let's figure out what this is. And it really came down to a few kind of specific pieces, right? So if you're trying to get from versus point A to point B, like in any capacity, it's never a straight line. Like we want it to be a straight line. We wish it was a straight line because that would make it so much easier. In fact, a straight line up would be great, but it doesn't really look like that. And so what I realized along that path is that the system has to start with awareness is the first step, knowing where you are and being able to identify it like very clearly, very honestly, and like knowing where that is. And then the pieces, obviously there's steps to all these parts, but like awareness is the first part. Vision is the next piece of the system. So not just knowing where you are, but you have to have a really clear vision of where you want to get to. I struggled in this step personally On occasion, I still do kind of get stuck in this step when I'm like not fully letting myself like realize the next part of my vision. But like, this is why I learned it was so important, is because if you cannot see where you're going or paint that picture, you don't know like what the treasure at the end of the map looks like for you, not for anybody else, for you, it's really hard to get there. It's hard to take the right steps. It's hard to do the other parts of this process. Like, and so we can't skip it. You're designing basically your future in this part of the process. And then comes the pieces in the middle of that, right? So you have your awareness and you have your vision, but how do you get through the middle of that? And that's kind of how the bridge works. And that comes down to a few very specific things. Number one is skills. There are some specific skills that you need in there. And so we identify what they are. If you need growth in them, development in them, like, but which ones do you actually need to get from A to B, or from awareness to vision, A to V. And then within that also, so we spend some time and some of this overlaps, right? Like, cause this path you're on from A to V it's not a straight line. Like, it goes up, it down, it curls sometimes, it goes backwards because, you know, life. So, along the way, we incorporate into this some strategic steps about your habits and the things that you're doing that could or could not be influencing your ability to get there, as well as your mindset. And so playing into not just what you're physically doing, but mentally what's going on and the work that needs to be done there, because you cannot get from A to V with the same mindset that you are in right now. And on top of that and layered into it, it is not a like written step, but it is the kind of the underlying super secret ninja skills that I have that sets apart what I do when I work with people. And that is communication. It sounds simple, and it really is, but I give people tangible tools for all of the moments of all of these processes and things that might come up for them to quickly and easily move through like past patterns and past ways of acting in order to make those shifts very quickly. So I think my ninja skill sauce in all of this is that even if I have a system, I'm able to move people very quickly through that system and into becoming and already like being the next version of themselves faster than they, almost all the time, faster than they believe possible. But like, I know it's possible, so we get there anyway.
Okay, so give it up for Michele. So I captured awareness, vision, skills, strategic steps, but I wasn't sure, like,
habits and mindset.
Is that it? Okay, habits, then mindset, or habits and mindset?
Separate, but they're skills, habits, mindset. That's where they have to fit this whole middle of the picture, right?
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah. I know.
That was a quick one.
Oh, shit.
Life's and tech checks. And we can't control either of them as much as we wish we could. So we just habits, skills, and mindset. So yes, they're all part of the plan, but awareness and vision, and inside of that, you have habit, skills, mindsets. And then cool. I strategically incorporate, because like that's your bridge, right? So your bridge is your habit, skills, and mindset. So any order you want to put them in, we build them on purpose.
Okay, so right, this is interesting, right? Is like the articulation of our systems is understanding internally, like behind the scenes, steps are sequential and pillars are in any order. In fact, the framework, the system from Be a Better Sales Leader, my first book, they're pillars. They can happen in any order. And so I think for you, and you're doing amazing, because this is like the 12th time we've attempted to record this video today.
Right, I'm saying it better and better every time.
But it's and like that's the thing, like when we're on podcasts, we say the same thing. And like I just want the room to understand that, like, whether you're a billion-dollar organization or an entrepreneur just getting started or anywhere in between, people will resonate so much more with your voice, with your message, with your mission, if you can show them that you have a system. And there's going to be more than one system, and there's more than one way to help people. That's not the point. But understanding, and this is broadly speaking, when you're on a podcast, who's their audience, and so then you tell the right story and the right system to connect with their audience. And so, yeah, I would love to see, Michele, your system, like, hey, I've got this amazing 2-step system. It's awareness to vision. And then you explain that. And then I'm not interviewing you like a podcast per se, but then as I ask more questions, then you say, okay, cool. Well, what goes in the system to get from A to V is the skills, the steps, the habits, the mindset. And we work with our clients depending on where they currently are to best fit this for them. But the ultimate goal is awareness to vision. Does that make sense?
100%. This is why we're on here today talking, and that just helped me make super clear. I think that's what I was trying to figure out in this part.
Yeah, right. So like half of these, so you guys, what I'm doing is live streaming with my friends, my clients, and it's both a hot seat and a way to get people drawn to her voice, her message. And so, yes, because our brain, I see this all the time. I was watching a podcast last night, and again, I know this woman, and she was asking me to look at it, and I was with a very discerning eye, and excellent storyteller, and all the things. But it is kind of like when we're telling our stories, I especially, I go in all these rabbit holes, and I am like, in my head, they're all making sense. They're all coming back to a point. But knowing that say yes and figure it out, as an example, is decide, take a step, lean in, and celebrate. If I'm actually presenting at a keynote in a virtual room, on a big stage, in person, it doesn't matter, or podcast, I'm going to very clearly be like, this thing happened to me. I made it into what happened for me. And I discovered this 4-step system. And then, so it's like, kind of like, I have this business. We've been doing this for 13 years. I realized XYZ, this thing happened, right? Then I discovered the system. This system is simply 2 steps. Write this down. It's awareness to vision. But you could imagine what happens from awareness to vision is a bunch of other stuff. So I think and if you're commanding the stage, you'd be like, and now I'm going to talk you through that. And if you're in an interview type situation, like, okay, you're going to ask, and we'll talk about the steps. We'll talk about what happens in the middle as we go.
And I think that's it is so helpful, because I work with people. I work with a lot of different people. I'm currently coaching, like I have teen clients. We use this system. Like I work with adult clients individually. Like we use this system. And I also work with organizations and businesses, schools, and like, because how they speak about where they want to go, like everybody's a little bit different, right? Like a teen client is not talking about like organizational culture and like why things feel off, but either way, it's the same system. Like it's how we operate from where we are to where we want to go, and just giving it words like awareness and vision. Those are words that make sense. And yet I think for a long time, like I would sit in rooms in business events and coaching events and masterminds, and they'd be like, write your vision and all the things that you want and I couldn't. I would literally sit there frozen. And I was like, I can't write. Why can I write nothing? Why can all these people stand up there and say all these things that they want, and I can write nothing? And I honestly, like, it was hard. Like I sat there like kind of hiding. I was like, I don't understand why I can't put this information down. I have goals. I have things I want, but I could never get that out of myself in those spaces. And I think that's where there's a disconnect. Because the other part of it is, in a lot of those events, it was like people would talk about it, but I've never seen them fulfill it. Like I've seen, I mean, on occasion, like the outlier actually gets there. And I was like, that's not cool either. Like people deserve to get to those places. Organizations and companies that have great missions, like they deserve to get there. But that doesn't mean that they're equipped with all the pieces in the middle to figure out why they're not. That doesn't mean that they can take a step back and figure out what's going on that's getting in their way. And when I finally figured that out for myself, and I was like, this is what's happening, then I was able to break it down. So I think 100%, right? Like, obviously I came to you because you have systems and you're like, I can work through this. But I had called it so many other things for so long,
Yeah.
and I just lived it, and I did it, and I was operating that way. And then finally I was like, wait, Kristen's right. There's a system here. Um, and it was that exact process of stepping back. And it took me a while. Like I
Mhm.
don't want to pretend to people that I just like all of a sudden was like, oh, it's a system and I could identify all of it and it was easy.
Yeah.
Like it took me a while, longer than I wanted it to step back and really figure this out. And then within that, you're right. So within that, um, once I realized, like I always knew that like I had this skill set, not just because I could tell, but like people would tell me, right? That like a conversation, I could move people forward like quickly. I
Mhm.
could shift something in them quickly. I could help like so like the idea of getting in momentum really fast once we've done a couple parts of this like was a cool byproduct is what I thought until I realized like that was my true skill set. Um and so going into it with like that idea now, right? So we talked about like then I'm going to put that into a book, which we just outlined a little bit more
Mhm.
clearly because that's been hanging me up for a hot minute. But you're right. Like then we tell the stories, and even
Mhm.
that, even that for the longest time, I was like, I speak a lot for a living. I travel. I facilitate programs all over the place. I was just at a program last week. I work with hundreds of teenagers at a time on these exact concepts, but it's not exactly this. Like it's a pre-designed kind of program, but I incorporate a lot of this because I get leeway in certain areas of it to like share, help, to grow, like, right? And as I do that, I was like, wait, I have so many stories. And that finally dawned on me is like when we talk about how do we connect with people and you have to tell them the stories. And I wasn't connecting all those pieces. Like all these different things seem so all over the place. And so like for me,
Yeah.
that's where working with you within this, like believing that there had to be a system, and taking the time to step back before I could lean in, like to be like, okay, I'm leaning into the belief that it's there, but like I had to actually step back and really give myself the ability to like zoom out and see it from a bigger picture. And that's when it started to click. And it was really cool that what I'd already been doing now has a name and it has markers and it has things that I can repeat easily without having to make it up all the time or think I'm making it up. Like I'm not starting over all the time. Like that feeling is
Yeah.
amazing.
I love that. I love that we're having this conversation. Michelle and I were, she was like messaging me yesterday, what are we going to talk about? And, you know, broadly speaking, we'll figure it out as we go.
Tech. We're going to talk about tech.
But yeah, right. This, so much of this is so relatable. If people are actually paying attention to what you're saying, Michelle's saying she's been doing this for 13 years in a formal capacity,
Oh, more
her
than
whole
that.
life.
Actually, I've been doing this for like 20 plus years in a formal capacity.
Right, right. But we have to decide. So we have to go through the say yes and figure it out framework, decide, take a step, lean in, and celebrate in order to get to where she is now, a time and time and time and time again. And it's like multiple iterations of getting to this point. And we're fact that you are in your awareness to vision, how ironic, right? Stage. But do you hear what she's saying? She had to like really pause, like really zoom out to figure out how to articulate her zone of genius. Because so often it's so close to us. How I teach people how to do sales, how I teach people how to make more money, it's so close to us. And we can tell them one to one to one to one to one to one to one and die in the implementation of that. And that can be fine for a long time. But really, when we learn to systematize the thing. So when she learned to put the markers, you called them, of awareness and then vision in place, now she can go, and when she's teaching one to one or one to many or on a big stage or in a podcast, it doesn't matter. Now she can look at those markers, and you can use those markers as reference points, because when people get stuck implementing what you're teaching, as they will, we point back to the step in the system in which they're stuck. And I mean, just to like level set the whole thing, I'm still figuring it out. right? Like my year-long mentorship, I'm like, okay, but there's this system, there's so many systems. I realized onboarding my last client that, oh, okay, I need like another broad, like when you come into this orbit, here's the overarching system. So yeah, grace to figure it out as we go, build a plane as we fly. Yeah.
Absolutely. Like I think that's where, and I think so because I have done so much of this. Like my background is actually in leadership development and communication, psychology. Like I have a very extensive background in a lot of arenas and a lot of areas. And I was getting, I think, so stuck in that. Like I have these stories, I have these examples, I have taught a lot. So I have like go to, you know, things that I use and stories. Like so the keynotes that I have been able to, that I've done, or just the speaking engagements that I have done, have been very tailored to leadership development, very tailored to specific concepts, right? So it was like I keynoted on like growth mindset um and it was such a narrow piece that I felt like for like a long time I was like, well, so I guess that's what I'm teaching, but it really wasn't. That fits into a pillar, right? So that's just an example that supported it, but it was like I was getting so almost caught in the weeds of like, they're not weeds because they're
Mm.
amazing pieces of like information, they're amazing tools, but because I felt like they were working so well, I was like, well, this must be my system. And so it really did. It really took a lot of um introspection, a lot of pausing and patience and grace to have not figured it out at this point. And to be completely like honest and vulnerable, right? Like that wasn't comfortable for me. Like, but I literally actively teach the phrase, you have to sacrifice comfort for growth, to rooms full of
Oh,
teenagers over and over. And then I work them through that. Like, and so it's like because living in integrity to me is like my 100%, like my hallmark of like who I am. I cannot live out of integrity, right? So it's like if I'm going to teach that, I have to also be willing to do it. I have to be willing to like show up in spaces where I'm not comfortable and like, and so I was doing that, but I wasn't getting what I needed either out of it. And so it's just allowing myself to have gone through that long enough and far enough into it that like I finally am coming to a point where like, and I mean like finally like years later, coming to a place where I feel a lot more comfortable with that uncomfortable, but I still get the feelings. I still work through these steps on a regular basis. I'm better at them. I'm faster at them. And that's how I know they work. It's how I know they serve, is because I'm not immune to it. And I think we put so many people who have a system on a pedestal and we're like, oh, they have it all figured out. Like, no, they don't. They don't have it all figured out, but they're willing and they believe in it and they know it works if they just keep doing it. And so I think that's the
yeah.
difference, is like I was talking about stuff, but I wasn't like fully, like now I can very clearly follow my own system as well because I've identified it. I'm not just kind of figuring it out anymore. Like I've identified it. So if
Mm.
I am stuck or if I do get into a place, I look at things like am I missing a skill? Like, is the reason because I'm just deficient in something that I need to make this successful? And then I get choices if I'm missing a skill, right? Do I need to go learn it? Do I need to hire it? Do I need to reach out to somebody? Like, is this just a habit I have of like hiding, or like, it was for a long time. Like I could say all the right things, but I would hide. Like, so there's pieces of this that we have
Mhm.
to break down to figure out ourselves. And that's how I know it works, is because I use it regularly. I don't just teach it, I use it. And I think to me, that's the piece that like, that's what resonates anytime I talk to you, is because you're not just teaching your
Yeah.
system, you use your system. You put yourself through it
Yes.
every time you do something. And like, so there's an integrity there um, that I think is what makes things sometimes like that magic. It makes it feel like it's like that super ninja thing that your people are like, why can't I figure that out? Or why don't I have that? And it's like, you have to be so invested in it that it's like it's you also. And so that to me, I think, is a big piece of the puzzle, is being willing to have like stayed in it long enough to like have
Yeah.
worked through the weeds and to be willing to do it again, right? Because it's going to come up again. It is never going to be A to Z on an upward hill and then that's it and we're there and we've made it. Like it's going to be all over and upside down and like looped, and because that's really what it looks like
Oh
for
my
all of
God,
us,
you
right?
said,
Like that's lifing.
oh, you said so many good things. One of them being, we are often not a requirement, but very, very, very often, more than not, a product of our own system, which is why it's harder to extract it from us because it comes so naturally to us. But the important thing here is we're using our system. We are continuing to use our system. And then when we can see what the system is, now we can recognize all the steps, and also the use cases more, and we can teach it better, and because we're constantly living in it. And that's what I want people to realize is your zone of genius, or whatever you do really well, whether you work for yourself or works for somebody else, you're so close to it. If you do what Michele did, humbled herself, got frustrated, really zoomed out, like really put some thought into it. That's what I had to do also. I mean, multiple times. So that's the stage I'm in right now for this mentorship, is like, oh my gosh, I have to create another system, right? But that's the point, is it should always be evolving because you're practicing what you preach. So that was something really awesome that you said.
Well, and as soon
You
as
said
you
a
get
lot.
to your like your V, right? As soon as you get there, there's the next one. Like, and you're not the same because you built skills and new habits, and like so you're always going to have to continue. There's going to be the next one and the next one and the next one, as long as you're still chasing that and looking to grow and trying to contribute, right? Like it's going to keep evolving like 100%.
Yeah. Oh my God, so good. Okay, as we wrap up, because we wasted all that time trying to figure this out. Um, Now this is different because like we're streaming in so many places. And I didn't, this is like, ugh, I hate this question, but I feel like we should start incorporating this. So it's like, what should we do next, Michele? If we, those of us watching, paying attention, seeing this now, seeing this in the future, if we could do anything to support you, what would that be?
That's a really good question. Um, Way to ask the good ones right at the end there.
Oh,
Questions you should
oh, I have an idea.
questions you should always think
Okay,
about before you get on with
I
somebody.
know. Well, I'm gonna start. Yeah, we're gonna start. I'm gonna maybe start to tell people this, but yeah, this is the evolution of it. Like for example, right? People could go to Amazon and buy "Say Yes and Figure It Out." If this resonates, go buy "Say Yes and Figure It Out." Michele is launching a book, so do you? What landing? So, like broadly speaking, it's like what landing page already exists where people could enter their information and find out more about you, right? Because maybe you're sending daily value emails or a newsletter, or, oh, that's something on the top of my list and I haven't implemented it yet. But like
I'm doing all
most
these things
importantly,
soon
I
that
think
Kristen's talking about.
it's like an exchange. The risk is with these things evergreen, living evergreen, it's like what's the landing page that will quote unquote always exist? Um, so a lot of times I default to like say yes and figure it out.com, and then we're trying to update this landing page as we speak, but it will always be something. Like I will now forever always own that landing page. So do you have a landing page for your business that you'll always own?
Not so I don't have that currently, but that is at the top of my list now, so that I have that. I do own a site, so we can get that set up and linked very quickly because that is super smart. Currently, it would just be like following me on Facebook and Instagram, because those are great places to find me and the things that I have going on currently. And they're going to shift gears here very, very soon into this style of like this content. I wasn't as active with that. And this is the reality of like, right? Like of learning this, of it being evergreen, of me figuring it out is like, it's almost there.
Yeah.
It's not there yet. And I'm okay
Yeah.
with that. Like I used to get really intimidated by that and be like, oh no, I don't have, it's coming and it's going to be there. And that's where I'm going to start. That's where I'll post my, how you can find my landing page. That's where I'll start putting information out and collecting it. And that's where you'll hear about my book as it's starting to get like in the process now. because I have a very clear framework for my book right now, and a whole lot of stories that fit it. So,
I know.
yeah, it would
See
be
it.
Facebook and Instagram, and getting that figured out. But I think that's like the beauty of calls like this is like, you know what, I'm
Yeah.
closer than I've been, and I feel really good, and find me there, and then we'll build and grow kind of as that starts to take off.
That's going to resonate so much because it gives permission to everybody who doesn't have it figured out yet. Like, just show up. So, my call to action is comment below wherever you're watching this video. We're on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, I think still Instagram. I'm not really sure. Um, but ultimately, like Michele, especially on Facebook, go and like comment so people know how to follow you. And thank you so much for all of this and for being the best person ever to fail forward through the tech. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here with you today.
Okay, I'll see you on the next call, hopefully. The private
You will.
call. All right, bye.